Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So as you may be able to tell from my voice, I am not feeling very well. I've been sick all week. And so I decided that we're going to do my winter TBR a week early. So this video was originally supposed to come out next week, but I just am not really feeling up to doing anything that requires a lot of thought today. So this video is pretty easy to film. It's pretty easy to know what to say. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this a week early and we'll have something different next week. Also, I apologize if you can hear noises from outside, but I have to film now because I do have to go to work later, which I really don't want to go to work today because I'm just not feeling up to it, but it should be an easy day. So well, my kids have peer review, so I don't have to do much. But anyway, so today, as I said, we're going to talk about my winter TBR. So if you haven't seen any of my seasonal TBR videos yet, essentially, I sort the books that I have on my physical TBR in several different categories, 4 of which are by season. So books that I am more inclined to read during a specific season, either because they are set during that season or because for some reason something about the story or the setting just reminds me of that season, like maybe on an aesthetic level or something. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the books that I am most inclined to read during the winter. I think I have chosen 13, and it doesn't mean that I'll get to all of these, but these are the ones that I am leaning more towards reading as far as my seasonal TBR goes. And then at the end of the video, I will show you me shelving all of my winter TBR books, so you'll be able to see like the whole range of things that I could pick from. And this is not to say that these are the only books that I will read in the winter. So for me, I am qualifying winter as December, January, and February. But these are not the only books that I will pick from or choose to read during the winter, because if you've seen some of my previous videos, you may remember I am planning to read Murtagh at the beginning or maybe like the middle-ish of December around my birthday, which is the 10th. And so I am going to read that in December, and then I am continuing my Cosmere read. So I did order a copy of Arcanum Unbounded with a coupon sale thing that was going on. So once that gets here, I'll be able to continue through the Cosmere. And then there are a number of other standalones and series that I am really hoping to read soon, if I can, that are not what I consider seasonal, so they're not going to be on this list. Although I will say, I do like to read a lot of fantasy in the winter. I don't know why, but something about the cold winter months just makes me want to curl up with a big fantasy book and just get lost in a new world. So there's that. But we're going to go through, I think I have 13 of the books from my winter TBR that I am most inclined to read this winter season. So the first one that we have is A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, and this beautiful edition is from Owlcrate. Like, it's so pretty. I just can't get over it. And I really love that they did the like original dust jacket art on the naked hardcover, because I think I really like the original cover. So I'm glad that I am able to have that artwork on here. Effie Sayre has always believed in fairy tales. She's had no choice. Since childhood, she's been haunted by visions of the Fairy King. She's found solace only in the pages of Ankarad, Imris Mirden's beloved epic about a mortal girl who falls in love with the Fairy King and then destroys him. Effie's tattered copy is all that's keeping her afloat through her first term at the prestigious Lyrian, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Lyrian Architecture College. So when Mirden's family announces a contest to redesign the late author's estate, Effie feels certain this is her destiny. But Hiraeth Manor is an impossible task, a musty, decrepit house on the brink of crumbling into a hungry sea. And when Effie arrives, someone else has already made a temporary home there. Preston Hellery, a stodgy young literature scholar, is determined to prove Effie's favorite author is a fraud. As the two rival students investigate the reclusive author's legacy, piecing together clues through his letters, books, and diaries, they discover that the house's foundation isn't the only thing that can't be trusted. There are dark forces, both mortal and magical, conspiring against them, and the truth may bring them both to ruin. So I believe this is set in Scotland or Wales. The names of like the locations seem kind of Welsh. I could be wrong, but I believe it's set in either Scotland or Wales, and it just sounds kind of creepy and mysterious and atmospheric. And I don't know, something about this idea of this crumbling manor on the coast up in the UK just seems perfect for the winter. And I think we might have some fae, so I don't know. I just think it sounds like it's gonna be really fun, and I've heard a lot of people like it, so I am looking forward to it. And, you know, I love a good atmospheric read when it's cold, so. And again, I'm sorry for my voice, and I'm sorry if I seem at all out of it. I'm just really don't feel very well, and I'm very tired, so apologies, please forgive me, and please bear with me. So the second book I have on this list I've mentioned before in previous videos, and that is The Advent of Winter, a fantasy anthology. So this was a Kickstarter that I had backed, and it is just a collection of 24 stories. Yes, 24 stories that make up a sort of Advent calendar. You are supposed to read a story a day during Advent leading up to Christmas, and they are all, as you can see, fantasy stories. And I imagine most of them probably are related to winter. Could be wrong, but I think that they are related to winter in some form or fashion. And here's a list on the spine of the surnames of all of the authors who contributed. So I am planning to read this one during Advent and read a story a day as it intends. I think it's going to be a really fun experience. So once December gets here, I will be able to start this. Also, we have a dragon on the back, which makes me very excited. Okay, next is a series that I plan on continuing, and specifically this is a manga series. So Black Butler by Yana Toboso. I read the first 10 volumes earlier this year, and I did get through all of the content, I think. No, there is one more arc that I need to get through. So I have been watching the Black Butler anime for like several years now. And if you're familiar with the anime, the season 1 followed the story from the manga. Season 2, it kind of took its own direction because I think maybe it had gotten ahead of where the manga had progressed in the story. So I didn't really watch season 2 because I didn't like some of the choices that were made. But then they started releasing these like mini seasons or movies that are covering arcs like that have continued since, you know, they kind of broke away from the original story. So I have gotten through Book of the Atlantic in the anime, and so there is a new season that has come out, which I don't know what it's called, but I know it's like the boarding school arc. So I have caught up through Book of Murder, and I need to just read Book of the Atlantic, I'm pretty sure is the last. Yeah, I think there's like maybe a bit at the beginning of this that's from Book of Murder as well. Yeah, there is. So I need to finish like the last chapter or couple chapters, which is the ending of Book of Murder. And then I can start Book of the Atlantic, and then pretty soon I will be able to get into new content that I am not familiar with. So if you've never heard of Black Butler, we follow Ciel Phantomhive, who is 12 or 13. I think he's 12 at the beginning of the series. I think by Book of Murder he's 13. Yeah, because he has a birthday. So he's 12 years old at the beginning of the series, and he is the Earl Phantomhive. So he is in charge of this prestigious manor and this toy company that his family owns, and he also works as the Queen's guard dog. So this does take place in Victorian England, and so one of his jobs is to help police sort of the underground and solve crimes that the police cannot solve. And he has inherited all of this from his late father, because unfortunately and tragically, Ciel's family were murdered, and he is the only one left, and he had disappeared for a while with events that pertained to this loss of his family, and he returned with a butler named Sebastian, but Sebastian is not human. Sebastian is a demon, and he has made a deal with Ciel that he will serve him and help him achieve his goals of finding out what happened to his family, and you know, helping him to run his estate and take care of him because of course he's 12, and help him with his work in all that entails. And in exchange, he will eventually get Ciel's soul. So it sounds really, really dark, and it can be very dark at times. But you do see, especially in the manga, I'm noticing a lot more humanity from Sebastian, and I'm hoping that that continues going forward. I'm like keeping my fingers crossed for a happy ending to this series. It is still ongoing. There are 32 or 33 volumes out at this point, so I do have all of the volumes that are out. I just need to catch up on them. And the reason that I want to read this in the winter is because for some reason Victorian settings, like Victorian England, just makes me think of fall and winter. I don't know why, especially when it can be kind of grim and dark and we're solving crimes and things like that. So I don't know, I just think it's really fun to read in the winter. It makes it more atmospheric. Then this next series takes place in the winter, so that is why it is on this list. And that is Erased by Kei Sanbe, so most of this does take place in the winter. And Erased is another manga series that I have actually already seen the anime, so I watched the anime when I was in my graduate program before I ever knew that it was a manga. And now I just really want to read the manga and see if there is any like content that didn't make it into the anime, because Erased is one of my favorite anime. It's so good. So in this story we follow our main character Satoru here on the back, and Satoru when the story starts is in his 20s, I'm pretty sure, but he has this condition. He can't control it, so he doesn't really consider it an ability, where he will see a tragedy happen and then go back in time a few seconds, a few minutes, so that he can try to prevent that tragedy. But one day, something very tragic happens in his own life that I don't want to spoil, that is connected to the disappearance of one of his classmates when he was in middle school. So one day when this tragic event happens in the present, he actually gets transported into the past as his middle school self, and is kind of trying to piece this mystery together and figure out what has happened. So there are some really dark themes in here, such as child abuse and abduction and murder, but it's a really, really compelling mystery, I think. And I just really love Satoru as a character, especially seeing how he, like, there are lots of like de-aging stories out there, like in the fan fiction world, right? But I think it's handled really well in this one because he is still aware that he was an adult, but being a child again definitely is influencing his emotions, his rationality, and he has to keep reminding himself, like, you are an adult. But he is also still a child, and I just think the ending was great. This is a really, really good story, and I only have the first volume, like, in my possession, but because they are kind of expensive because they're big 2-in-1 hardcovers. But I'm really excited to actually get into the manga form of this and see it in its original format and see if there's anything in here that the anime left out, because that is unfortunately pretty common with adaptations. Then I have another series that I want to continue, and that is the Jackaby series by William Ritter. So this is the second book, Beastly Bones. I do have all of the remaining books in this series, so hopefully I'll be able to just continue it. This series is so fun. We follow this young lady named Abigail Rook, who, again, it's like Victorian era. She has kind of like run away from boarding school or finishing school or something like that to go on adventures. She ends up with no money in London, I'm pretty sure. No, it's New Fiddleham, New England. So Yeah, not in London, in America. New Fiddleham in New England. And she meets I'm sorry, I'm having serious brain fog today. I apologize. But she meets a very eccentric character named Jackaby. And Jackaby is a detective, but he solves crimes of the supernatural. So he can see and sense things that most people cannot, and he is aware of this other world that exists alongside sort of the mundane world that everyone else is familiar with. And so a lot of people think that he's crazy, but Abigail becomes his assistant and is in the first book helping him to solve a mystery, a crime. It is very Sherlock Holmes coded. Jackaby's character, he doesn't really fit in well. He doesn't understand social conventions super well, but it has that like supernatural element to it. And he is very much his own character, even though he is definitely Sherlock Holmes coded. And the story is told from Abigail's perspective, and she is just really fun main character. She doesn't want to be forced into this role of what society expects women to do, but she's also not like opposed to feminine and effeminate things. So she's not one of those like not like other girls characters. She just wants to be herself, and I think that she is a very realistic character. I really liked her, so I'm really excited to continue this and to see what other mysteries they get to solve and, you know, explore further into this supernatural world that she is becoming enmeshed in because of her new friendship and partnership with Jackaby. Then I have another series that I'd like to continue, and that is, I want to read the sequel to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So this is The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke, and this is set in the same world as Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is right here, this really huge black and like greenish book there. So this one is much smaller, and it follows an entirely new character. So this story, I'll just read you the synopsis for it since it doesn't spoil anything for the first book in the series, because they are kind of, I think, standalones. I don't know, maybe there will be connections to the first one. That would be really cool. 19-year-old Meraldis Scott is an unusual girl. She can talk to animals and trees, and she is only ever happy when she is walking in the woods. One snowy afternoon, out with her dogs and Apple the pig, Meraldis encounters a blackbird and a fox. As darkness falls, a strange figure enters in their midst, and the path of her life is changed forever. So, this story is actually illustrated. It has very pretty little illustrations in it, and it's really short. But I love Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I really like the way that they incorporate magic and the Fae. I think it definitely had like a original fairy tale kind of feel to it, like those original stories of the Fae from the UK. I think, and that like darker side to them, and how their world is kind of like connected to but separate from our world. So I really enjoyed that in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and I'm really excited to get back into that world. Like I said, this one's really short. There are a lot of illustrations, so it's even shorter than it looks. But I just am excited to learn something new about this world and see a new character in it and how she is going to perceive it and interact with it, I guess. Then the next book that I have is not a fantasy, this is a romance. We have Love Light Farms, which is the first book in the series of the same name by B.K. Borison, and as you can probably tell, this takes place at Christmas time. A handsome, freckled data analyst, a messy, optimistic Christmas tree farm owner, a small town with the best hazelnut lattes on the East Coast. In an effort to save the Christmas tree farm she's loved since she was a child, Stella enters a contest with Insta-famous influencer Evelyn St. James. With the added publicity and the huge cash prize, she might just be able to save the farm from its financial woes. There's just one problem. To make the farm seem like a romantic destination for the holidays, she lied on the application and said that she owns Love Light Farms with her boyfriend. Only, there is no boyfriend. Enter best friend Luca Peters. He just came home for some hot chocolate and somehow got a farm and a serious relationship in the process. Will their fake love affair save Lovelight Farms in time for Christmas? So, cute romance, small town romance, best friends to lovers. It sounds really cute, and it takes place at Christmas, and it is the first in a series of interconnected romances that I think all take place in the same town, and each book is set in a different series. So I would really like to read this one this December. That way I can then read the next one in the spring, and then the summer, and then the fall. So I want to read these seasonally, so if I don't read this one this December, then I won't be able to start this series until next December. That's the way I look at this in my head. So I would like to read this one, and I think it's going to be really cute and very good at putting me in the holiday spirit. Not that I'm not already. We've already decorated for Christmas. We just have to put the Christmas tree up, which is funny because usually we decorate the first weekend after Halloween. But since we were leaving for Boston that next week, we decided to give ourselves some extra time, not put so much on our plate before we have to leave, and B, in order to make sure that we don't have new stuff introduced to the house with the cats right before we leave them, we decided to wait and decorate once we got back. So we have decorated, but we haven't put the tree up yet. And the tree does go in this room, so we have to kind of move some stuff and put it up, but hopefully we'll be doing that this weekend. Hopefully I'll feel up to it. But yeah, so I am very much already in the holiday mood and have been for a while. But I think this book is just going to be really cozy and really sweet to read at Christmas time. And then the next book that I have is a historical fantasy. This is A Hero Born, which is the first book in Legends of the Condor Heroes by Jin Yong. In a world where kung fu is magic, kingdoms vie for power, and the battle to become the ultimate kung fu master unfolds, an unlikely hero is born. After his father, a devoted Song patriot, is murdered by the Jin Empire, Guo Jing and his mother flee to the plains of Genghis Khan and his people for refuge. For one day, he must face his mortal enemy in battle in the Garden of the Drunken Immortals. Under the tutelage of Genghis Khan and the 7 heroes of the South, Guo Jing hones his kung fu skills. Humble, loyal, and perhaps not always wise, Guo Jing faces a destiny both great and terrible. However, in a land divided, and with a future largely unknown, Guo Jing must navigate love and war, honor and betrayal, before he can face his own fate and become the hero he's meant to be. So this was originally written in Chinese. It is a very well-loved Chinese historical fantasy from what I understand. And this particular edition is translated by Anna Homewood. But I have had this on my TBR for quite a while, and I just really need to read it. Did I see? Oh my gosh, it does. It has illustrations. I love that. I love it when books have illustrations. So yeah, I just really need to read this because it sounds really fun. I love stories set in China and in, historical, I'm pretty sure it's a fantasy. I mean, because Kung Fu is magic. Okay. So I love fantastical, historical Chinese settings. I just think they're so fun to read about and explore. So I'm really excited to start this series, and hopefully I will get to it. And I don't know what about this makes me feel like it's going to be good for winter. I don't know. Maybe I just associate Chinese historical fantasy with winter because I first watched The Untamed and the first season of Heaven Official's Blessing in the winter. So maybe that's why. I don't know, but it's on this list. I'm really excited to start it. All right, so we have 6 left to talk about, so we're about halfway done. So the next one is another one that I want to read at Christmas, and that is The Nutcracker by Alexander Dumas. I, again, have had this on my TBR forever, and this edition does have cute little illustrations as well. I mean, I don't think there is a synopsis on this edition to read, but I also feel like most people have heard of The Nutcracker. If you haven't heard of The Nutcracker, we follow a young girl named Clara, and she is celebrating Christmas with her very large extended family, and she gets a nutcracker as a present from her godfather, I think. But the nutcracker comes to life, and Clara ends up in this other world where the Rat King is trying to I don't really remember what he's trying to do, like take over. And the Nutcracker is trying to fight back against him. So I have seen the Nutcracker ballet multiple times, but I've never read the original story. So I'm really excited to read this. I read A Christmas Carol for the first time in its entirety last year at Christmas, which again, had been familiar with the story. I've seen so many adaptations of it throughout my lifetime, but I had never actually read the original book in its entirety. And I did that, and it was wonderful. I read it Christmas Eve and then Christmas evening. And that I think is what I plan to do with the Nutcracker as well, because like A Christmas Carol, it is very short. So although I think it is longer because the text is quite small, but I'm very excited to read this, and I love ballet. I took ballet for 8 years, and I love the Nutcracker. I think it's beautiful production, so I really want to read the source material. Okay. Now I have another series that I would like to start this winter season, and that is The Shadow Histories. Yes, The Shadow Histories by H.J. Perry. So this is the first book, A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians, and this cover is so cool looking. In the Age of Enlightenment, a time of new and magical political movements, from the Mesmer Robespierre calling for revolution in France to the weather mage Toussaint Louverture. I'm so sorry. I've mentioned before in videos I don't speak French and I have no idea how to pronounce French names or French words. So if I'm butchering any of this, I offer my sincerest apologies. I don't know French. I'm so sorry. Leading the fight to the weather mage Toussaint Louverture, leading the fight for freedom in Saint Domingue, is that how you say that? To the bold new Prime Minister William Pitt, weighing the legalization of magic among commoners in Britain. But amid all the upheaval, there is an unknown force inciting violent conflict, and it will require the combined efforts of revolutionaries, magicians, and abolitionists to unmask this hidden enemy before the world falls to darkness and chaos. This sounds so cool. We have revolution, we have mages, we have abolition, and I don't know, it's historical fantasy. It just sounds so neat. And I think the title, A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians, sounds very intriguing. I wonder if they're like trying to maybe unionize, or it says they're trying to get magic legalized in Britain among the commoners. So maybe this is one of those things where it is reserved for people of privilege and whatnot. I don't know. I just think this is going to be really fun. It sounds so cool. It really does. It just sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. All right, then this next one I'm so excited to read because everyone who reads it seems to love it, and I'm just so excited. And that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This book has been on my TBR for a while, and then I got the beautiful like Wraithmarked edition, and it's so pretty. And I've just been kind of waiting because it looks very wintry on the cover. So it's in my winter TBR. On a mountainside at the edge of the Kaiganese Empire live the most powerful warriors in the world, superhumans capable of raising the sea and wielding blades of ice. For hundreds of years, the fighters of the Kusanagi Peninsula have held the Empire's enemies at bay, earning their frozen spit of land the name the Sword of Kaigen. Born into Kusanagi's legendary Matsuda family, 14-year-old Mamoru has always known his purpose: to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. But when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain on Kaigen's alleged Age of Peace, Mamoru realizes that he might not have much time to become the fighter he was bred to be. Worse, the empire he was bred to defend may stand on a foundation of lies. Misaki told herself that she left the passions of her youth behind when she married into the Matsuda house. Determined to be a good housewife and mother, she hid away her sword, along with everything from her days as a fighter in a faraway country. But with her growing son asking questions about the outside world, the threat of an impending invasion looming across the sea, and her frigid husband grating on her nerves, Misaki finds the fighter in her clawing its way back to the surface. When the winds of war reach their peninsula, will the Matsuda family have the strength to defend their empire, or will they tear each other apart before the true enemies even reach their shores? So this is a standalone fantasy. And again, it sounds very wintry because we have this, seems like very ice-covered country, and the people there are able to wield water and wield ice. So it sounds very waterbending-esque, like from Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I know that I've heard that this has a lot of really good commentary on motherhood and on war and propaganda. So it does sound like it's going to be political in a way, but also very family and character focused. And I've just heard so much praise for it. I've heard so much praise for M.L. Wong as an author, and I'm just really excited to finally actually read this. Then I have another fantasy with an Asian-inspired setting. This is The Art of Prophecy, which is the first book in the War Arts saga by Wesley Chu. So many stories begin the same way, with a prophecy, a chosen one, and the inevitable quest to slay a villain, save the kingdom, and fulfill a grand destiny. But this is not that kind of story. It does begin with a prophecy. A child would rise to defeat the eternal Khan, a cruel, immortal god king, and save the kingdom. And that prophecy did anoint a hero, Jen, raised since birth in luxury and splendor, and celebrated before he has won a single battle. But that's when the story hits its first twist. The prophecy is wrong. What follows is a story more wondrous than any prophecy could foresee, and with many unexpected heroes. Taishi, an older woman who is the greatest grandmaster of magical martial arts in the kingdom, but who thought her adventuring days were all behind her. Sali, a straight-laced warrior who learns that the rules may no longer apply when the leader to whom she pledged her life is gone. And Chisami, a chaotic assassin who takes a little too much pleasure in the kill. And Jen himself, who has to find a way to become what he no longer believes he can be, a hero after all. So I think this one, based on the names, I'm going to wager a guess that this one is Chinese inspired, whereas the Sword of Kaigen seems more Japanese influenced. But I know that this one, we've got like the chosen one trope, but in a very interesting way, because the chosen one is known since he was born. And so he is kind of just pampered his whole life, and people just kind of assume that he will have the abilities because he, like, in order to do what needs to be done because he is the chosen one. But then we have, I think Taishi is probably going to be the one who kind of starts to help him. I don't know, because we end up seeing this child realizing that, actually, no, he does need training. Like, he does need to figure out what to do. The chosen one doesn't mean you necessarily just have some magical ability that's inherent as a part of you. It just means that you are the one who is going to do this and be a hero, but like, you still have to get there. I don't know. That's what I understand from what I've heard people say about this and from the synopsis, and I think it's going to be really fun take on the chosen one trope. You know, having him know his destiny from the very beginning, because often the chosen ones usually find this out once they're already enmeshed in the conflict, or once they have already achieved some sort of goal or gained some sort of power. I don't know. So I think this is going to be really fun. And it is a series. I know that at least the second book is already out. I can't remember if the third one is out or not, but I'm really excited to try it. Okay, 2 books left to talk about. So the next one is one that I've actually gotten quite recently, and that is Foul Days. This is the first book in the Witches' Compendium of Monsters. Yes, I got the title right. By Genevieve Dimova. As a witch in the walled city of Chernograd, Kasara has plenty of practice treating lycanthrope bites, bargaining with kikimoras, and slaying blood-sucking Upirs or Upirs? I'm gonna say Upirs. There's only one monster she can't defeat, her ex, the Zmei, known as the Tsar of Monsters. She's defied him one too many times, and now he's hunting her. Betrayed by someone close to her, Kasara's only choice is to trade her shadow, the source of her powers, for a quick escape. Unfortunately, Kasara soon develops the deadly sickness that plagues shadowless witches, and only reclaiming her magic can cure her. To find it, she's forced to team up with a suspiciously honorable detective. Even worse, all the clues point in a single direction. To get her shadow back, Kasara will have to face the Foul Day's biggest threats without it, and she's only got 12 days. But in a city where everyone is out for themselves, who can Kasara trust to assist her in outwitting the biggest monster from her past? So, again, historical fantasy. This one, again, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but it sounds Russian inspired. And I have heard Elliot Brooks praise this series a lot. She went into it thinking she was going to enjoy it and ended up loving it. So I'm very excited to try it, and I do have the matching second edition. So these are the Alcrate editions. So I do have the second edition, the second volume in the series. So it is just a duology. So if I really, really like this first one, I can just go ahead and jump right into the second one. And again, because it seems Russian inspired and because of the illustrations on like the end papers, I'll just show you the first one. Something about this just seems very cold and wintry to me. So I don't know. I think, oh, and look at the art on the Naked Dust jacket. It's snowing. So yeah, I think this will be really good to read in the winter. I think the atmosphere will just fit perfectly. Okay, and then the final book on this little like priority winter TBR list that I have is another manga, and that is Wolf Children Ame and Yuki. The original story was written by Mamoru Hosoda, and the art is done by Yu. So this is a story about a lady who falls in love, and they get married, and she finds out, well, I think she finds out before they're married. She meets this guy and they fall in love, and she finds out that he is actually a shapeshifter. He can turn into a wolf. And they have 2 children, Yuki and her little brother Ame. But when Ame is just a baby, I can't remember their mom's name. What is her name? Hana. Hana's husband is tragically killed, so she is left to raise these children on her own. The children have inherited their father's abilities, and so she is raising them, trying to help them find their place in the world, because obviously they are quite different from everyone around them. And okay, if you're wondering how I know so much about this, I have seen the movie. I think the movie was the original format for this. I could be wrong. It could be that the manga was the original, but I know that the manga came before the light novel at least. So the manga may have been the original, and then the light novel and the movie were adaptations of it. But I also have the light novel, which is like tiny compared to this, because a lot of this is visual, or at least the movie was. And there are little scenes where there's like no talking and it's just very visual. So I feel like the manga is going to be a lot better than the light novel, but I love this story so much that I had to get both. So I do really want to read at least the manga this year. And I know that the cover looks very springy, but there is one particular scene in here especially that takes place in the snow. And so every time I think of the series, I think of that scene and I think of winter. So that's why it's on this list. This could also be read in the spring, so if I don't get to it this winter, I'll probably read it early spring. But I love this story so much. It is all about parenthood, motherhood, and then for the children, like trying to decide on your future and your path in life, and loving who you are and coming to terms with your differences from other people. And it's just so good, and it makes me cry. So I'm really excited to read the manga, because I do think that the manga was probably the original. And I love the movie so much. I just can't imagine not being utterly smitten with this book. So that is the last one on this list. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send you to Past Aubrey, and you guys will get to see me shelving all of the books that are on my winter TBR. So you'll get to see these, and then all of the others that I have categorized as wintry books. All right, so those are the 13 books that I have on my sort of winter priority TBR. And then, of course, the others that I have to pick from. As I said at the beginning, though, there are a number of other books that are not wintry that I do still really want to read. So who knows what I'll actually get to in the winter. I'm very much a mood reader, so I can never be completely sure. Of what I'll read at any given point in time, unless, like I said, there's a specific reason for me reading it. Um, so, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear in the comments if there are any books you plan to read this winter, or if you've read any of these and you would like to, you know, let me know what you thought of it. Just please keep your comments spoiler free. Or if there are any of these that, now that I've brought them up, you think that maybe you want to read or maybe add to your winter TBR. I genuinely love talking to you guys in the comments, and so I would love to hear your thoughts. If you would like to leave an emoji, let's do a snowflake in honor of winter. I know we're not quite there yet, but I'm ready for it. So if you want to leave an emoji either with your comment, or if you don't know what to say but you just want to let me know you were here, you can just pop one down there. We'll do a snowflake this week. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry that I'm just kind of out of it today. Hopefully I'll feel better soon and next week will be a lot better. So, but thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. I hope that you are all having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.